Welcome to a new episode of Wedding Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, the team from Weddings a la Mode and Mode Events joins us with a special guest to chat about all things wedding related. Now pour yourself a drink and let's get to planning. Hi, everyone. Happy Wedding Wednesday. Thanks for joining us here on Twitch. We are so excited to have a very special guest. Her name is Amy. She lives in Chicago. I've known her for a very long time. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Amy Yassinger of Yazz Jazz. Yay! Studio
Hi.
Hey! Welcome
Yay.
to Wedding Wednesday. It's your first time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have you been on Twitch before? Are you familiar with it?
No, this is all new for me.
It is, another platform. I think it started for video gamers, but, a lot of DJs are now on here. Mm-hmm. And it's a really great tool for us to kind of have multiple users at the same time live. So, yeah, It's been a long time since we've actually seen each other. I wish we were at a networking event together right now, having a glass of wine or something. I'm actually drinking tea. Boring.
I'm drinking water. Very exciting.
I saw on, are you on TikTok?
No.
Okay. I'm obsessed. And there's this TikTok trend where people are like pouring alcohol into their mugs and they're cutting a tea bag and they're like taping it to the side of the cup to make it look like they're on a call and they're like, oh, and they're drinking tea, but it's actually like hard liquor or wine or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Like next level of alcoholism, basically. But yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to start with, how you got into the wedding industry and what you do now. So I know already a little bit about you and your company, but if you can just talk about, just how you even got involved in the wedding industry.
Well, it's actually a good question. I used to live in Miami, Florida, where I went to the University of Miami, go Canes, in 2001. And I was a music major, and there was a company in Miami called The Wedding Experience, where people would get married on cruise ships. So essentially, it would be smaller weddings, like 10 to 20 people. They would get married when the ship was at the Port of Miami or Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale. And they'd want a harpist or a guitar player or a small band for about 1 to 3 hours for this reception. And then the musician would exit the ship, and then the rest of the guests would take their trip on the cruise. They would go on a honeymoon or just, and at the time I didn't really know anything about weddings, but they contacted me, a college student, and I would get paid to provide musicians for events, which was pretty cool.
Would you get like a commission or a flat rate? Did they have you on retainer? Was it per gig? Like, how does that work?
It was funny because at the time, he'd say, how much would it be for a harpist? And I'd say, $400. And he'd say, does that include a fee for you? And I said, so they taught me early on to just kind of, charge whatever. And I would send a college student out for $200 or whatnot. Yeah. And then I made a little extra.
Yeah.
They would charge extra on top of the college student services. So that's how I first got a sampling of doing weddings. But then when I came back to Chicago in 2008, I worked several jobs. I was teaching private singing lessons. And finally, after singing enough, I had a friend in high school ask me to sing at her wedding.
Aw.
And I had a little jazz band in 2010,
Where you were
and
there?
I was the singer. And I met a DJ at my friend's wedding, and we became really good friends. And I learned a lot about weddings. I learned how DJs work, how emceeing works, what songs people request, how to handle challenging guests. And over time, I built my band. We now have a couple different bands, both led by women, and we have strings. We've got cello. We've got violin. We've got also a harpist. So over time, I kind of developed more experience in terms of what people wanted, and built over the past decade just kind of a whole music experience for people. And
Yeah,
that's how it started.
I know you as a singer. Like, I
Mhm.
know that you're a singer. And we will definitely get into that. Like, I've seen you. You're super great about
Thank you.
on Facebook. You're very talented. I've also referred to you specifically to others as a band leader. Is that correct? Is that an appropriate
Yes.
title? Okay, because I know you're the owner of your company, obviously, but I'm like, oh, she's the band leader. Traditionally, I feel like band leaders are like, fortunately or unfortunately, like older men who are like, I don't know, they play an instrument of some kind. Um, so I just want to make sure I have that right. So
It's true. I actually am a band leader. I happen to be the lead female singer of my band. And then in our other band, which is called Heat Wave, Brooke is the band leader who happens to be a singer.
got it.
But it is definitely true. It is usually men, primarily instrumentalists, so piano players, guitar players, or drummers who are leading. And over the years, yes, we've had guests approach my piano player or drummer and say, "Hey, blah blah blah," and they'd say, "Well, that's the leader. Go tell them," And it's pretty interesting. But no, it's definitely the majority are men.
Did you, when you started putting together or like managing other musicians, were you finding you were getting more corporate clients first or weddings? Because I know that you currently do both, right? You do all
Mhm.
types of events, right?
Yes.
What percentage are you doing weddings and what percentage are you doing corporate?
Well, before the pandemic, before the pandemic, I'd say we were like 80% weddings, 20% corporate and social.
Got it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So weddings. That's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's our thing.
Same with me personally. Like, I started as a wedding planner, but since I've been with Mode, we have our hands in a lot of different like areas. So I
Mhm.
learned a lot. Like, I did a fashion show a couple years ago. I'm like, what?
Nice.
That's not like, I'm not going out there saying like, oh, if you need a fashion show planner, like I'm your girl. I mean, I would feel comfortable, but like I'm heavily focused on weddings specifically. That's my background.
Yeah, we love doing the corporate social stuff. I mean, it's certainly fun, but there's definitely some dues that have to be paid, so to speak. I think it just
Yeah.
takes more time,
Yeah.
um, and now we'll see what happens after COVID, because there will be an after COVID. There will be.
Gosh, I'm like, now you're making me want to drink.
Knock
Here's
on wood.
that. I'm like grasping onto my mug.
You're right.
Well, speaking of COVID, then, obviously everyone in the world has been, or the majority of people in the world have been affected by COVID.
Mhm.
At what point did you start seeing the effect on your business? Like, was it mid-March when, yeah, if you just want to explain like what started happening and then how you pivoted. I hate that word, but everyone's having to pivot.
Got to call it what it is, Lindsay.
I know. I know. This is my
Uh,
therapy session. Thank you everyone for joining in on my therapy session.
well, funny enough, we actually felt the first effects of this pandemic in the beginning of February,
Okay.
because we were hired to play a corporate event for Accenture. I hope I'm allowed to say their name on here, but
Okay.
um, a very well-known corporation in the Chicagoland area,
Sure.
and it was canceled. The event was supposed to be towards the end of February, and about a week before the event, the venue called and said the event canceled. There's a lot of international travelers, and yada yada yada. I'm so sorry. And we worked out a cancellation, and we just kind of went about our lives. And then um, it was, we were supposed to have a huge event March 14th for about 350 Rotary Club members of the local community. And that's when it first hit. It was that March 12th, that Thursday, when we started getting all the worried calls, emails, and then we actually had 62 weddings for 2020 scheduled. And March to June was pretty brutal in terms of just getting acclimated. And in addition to being a singer, because, singers, we spit when we sing. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I also teach private singing lessons at 2 high schools.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for 12 years.
So
So
are you doing that virtually now?
I am. So that in terms of a pivot, luckily, and thank God, because these kids are marvelous, I've been able to pivot and teach online remotely via Zoom. And it's been great. The kids are just awesome. It was challenging at first to get a momentum and, glitch issues. But the key is, I've found, to keep the kids motivated. You have to keep them engaged. You have to give them material that's interesting. I'm helping them with more music theory skills, which we wouldn't normally do as much in person. But those kids have kind of kept things moving along, and we've done some small events.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it you? Are you? So we'll advertise this later too at the end, but I know that you're performing at a local restaurant in South Barrington, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I remember you said that's every Friday, and we'll remind people at the end of this, every Friday from 5 to 9. But yeah, in terms of other smaller performances, for weddings specifically, have the majority of your weddings pushed to next year?
Yes.
People, oh, okay.
Out of those 62 events, 5 of them flat out canceled.
How did you handle that?
How did I handle that?
Yeah, I mean, what were those conversations like? You don't have to go in depth for privacy reasons or whatever, but
well, 97.5% of them were very sad. And I'm an empathetic person by nature, and most of the clientele who I work with gravitate towards me because they're also generally empathetic. So there was a lot of, I mean, it was just talking through options. And I had reached out to many of these people in the middle of March when this first happened to start the conversation. And I think a lot of them were grateful, our June, July, August couples, because they didn't even want to think about it.
No.
So that helped. And I will say, and I can say this because it'll be therapeutic for me, there was one mother of a bride who initially, when we got the booking and everything, they were wonderful. And then when they decided to move the wedding, and it just got very ugly in terms of, I was treated horribly, and she was very degrading and rude and horrible to me. And I did walk away from it, but they're still having an event. They've just decided to cut back.
Sure.
And it was just, the lack of communication and the way it was handled was horrible. And
we've learned, and I'm sure you've learned this too, that through all of this, when dealing with clients, we've always tried to be proactive, but now more than ever, like you said, you started approaching your clients in March. We did too.
Yes.
No one can predict the future, but we sent out, I mean, I think it was March. It was as soon as we started getting cancellation and postponement requests.
Yes.
We advised all of our 2020 guests to move to 2021, simply because it would allow them to have more dates available for next year versus like wait
Yes.
it out. And then they're told they have to postpone. And then when they try to look for dates, it gets eaten up. and it just takes stress off. But it's people's wedding. Like, we can't tell them what to do. We can only advise so much.
Right.
A lot of our job is education.
About 7 of our clients ended up having their ceremonies back in July and a couple in August, just for family and friends. And they're having a larger celebration in 2021 or 2022. And that absolutely is important. The whole make sure you have your date in 2021. By the way, June 12th of 2021, I can't even tell you, that's going to be an insane day. But
like, that's your busiest date?
I don't even want to talk about it. I mean, I said it, but it's just, that day is going to happen and it'll be fine. But I'm never taking that many events in my life ever again, because it's just too much. Between our new bookings we had prior to COVID and people moving their dates saying, oh, June 12th sounds like a wonderful day. It was like, you couldn't have picked the 19th or the 5th. Like, what are we doing? Anyway.
I guess at what point do you say no? I mean, because if I was my company, any company, you obviously want to take as much business on as you can. And so you grow your team.
Yes.
But then I guess there's a certain point where you just can't get musicians.
It wasn't even that. Essentially, it worked out in our favor because, well, both my band, which is Yazz Jazz Music Experience, and then Heatwave Orchestra, we were already contracted before COVID. So, but then I had another event where they just wanted a jazz ensemble for cocktail hour for 90 minutes downtown. And they wanted a female singer with a trio. And I explained to the bride, I said, if you're going to pick June 12th, you'll have a really great band, but it's not going to be me leading it. There's a girl named Abigail. She's actually a better singer than me. You'll love her. She's fantastic, whatever. And they were totally on board with that. So that was our third event that day. And then we had a bride who just picked June 12th without telling me. And she actually was a huge fan of one of our vocalists who I have had lead bands in the past. Mm-hmm. And he is going to be leading our third band that night. And between all the singers, we've all sung together. So we were able to make it work. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of pivoting, a lot of dancing, a lot of whoa, that I prefer not to do if I don't have to, but we'll see. I mean, everybody's competent enough, and we'll probably have some rehearsals before then.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, even like now, not playing for 6 months, and we'll need a rehearsal.
Oh my gosh, I did not think about that because you guys can't rehearse in person.
No.
I didn't even think about that.
And it's stamina too.
So are all the live musicians are just going to be shitty when they first start? I hope everyone thinks like you and has a lot of rehearsals.
Well, we had my core group of guys, the 5 of us. We played an event at the Glen Club in August. It was an outdoor Great Gatsby party.
Yeah, it's nice there.
It's so nice there, and they have been so great to us, and they really care about their guests and their employees, and you could just see the passion Michael has. I just love them. But when we played there, we had not played together in 6 months. And even just playing just Frank Sinatra music was a challenge for us. We all felt like very foggy and
didn't even think about that. That's nuts.
Yeah, because when you play events every weekend, your chops are going, you're going. But man, it's exhausting to stand up for 4 hours and sing if you're not doing it all the time.
Are you getting any inquiries for virtual events? Have you noticed, like, to perform virtually, or because we're doing a lot of virtual for DJs, but I don't know about the live music side.
We've had a couple, not a ton. Some of them were for senior centers looking to promote their senior center for obviously older individuals. They wanted music to entice the kids of potential residents of these retirement communities. So they wanted, like, Billy Joel, Johnson,
like children, to send them
to their facility.
Send them away. That's horrible. But yeah, got it.
Yeah, so we've had a couple, but not a ton. I think a lot of people are also burnt out a little bit with the virtual stuff as well. In terms of the live music stuff, I don't know about DJ stuff.
Gotta check out Twitch more.
I know. I'm on, and TikTok. I'm so behind.
Oh my gosh.
You'd
Yeah.
think with all my teenage students, they'd be keeping me in the loop with this stuff, but
TikTok, I'm obsessed with. A lot of the people in this chat room that I'm seeing on Twitch know already about my obsession with TikTok. And yeah, I've already started exploring Twitch too. At first I was like, oh gosh, another platform. Same with TikTok, but you know, it's just new avenues of interaction with people.
I love it. I think it's great. And I loved your TikTok video from months ago when you were playing the bride having to postpone her wedding.
Oh yeah.
That was hysterical.
Yeah, it basically was, it was like one bride, which is me, saying to another bride, also me, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad that it might rain on my wedding day, and like, oh my gosh, my venue is double booked, and then it's like this dramatic music, and then coming in like this diva bitch saying like, oh yeah, well, COVID messed up my wedding or something. Yeah, it was fun. See, you remembered one. Yeah, I don't know. Check it out if you can. There's so much out there, but it's fun. I like Twitch again because you can see people chatting and you can interact with people. I see DJ Chris Cut in here, DJ Rex J. They're both from Mode Events. Hey guys, Mode Team. Woo woo. So people can watch, they can chat. If any of the viewers, if any of you guys have questions, happy to answer them for me or Amy. So obviously smaller weddings are trending because of COVID. What's like cool, or are there any trends in terms of like music styles that you're seeing? Are there any, I don't know, because like I feel like a lot of couples for cocktail hour, for example, are like Frank Sinatra is cool. Like, are there any trends that we should be aware of?
I've seen two things that are rather popular. They love a duo of cello and violin playing pop songs. So even just Brown Eyed Girl or Happy Together, and then, Bruno Mars, Marry You. And then they also like, I call it the acoustic pop folk thing, with a guitar player and a couple singers singing like unplugged Whitney Houston songs and Billy Joel, and throwing in a Sinatra and a Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
So you get that old school feel, but like a very earthy background music vibe. A lot of people love that. So hearing like I Want to Dance with Somebody, like folky, is kind of.
Yeah. Have you heard of, I might be botching this, but Vitamin String Quartet?
Yeah, so Vitamin String Quartet, Brooklyn Duo, the piano guys, they love that.
Okay, cool. So that's trending. Do you get more inquiries for like when couples reach out to you? Are they aware of what they want, or like a lot of questions, or a lot of couples when they reach out to us for DJ services, I always ask, because I love live music. I love the combo of live music and DJ, but I always ask, like, are you planning on having live music for your ceremony or cocktail hour? And 90% of them, 95% are like, oh, I didn't think about having live music. And because like our DJs, if you're going to book our DJ, we're going to be there for the reception. Like if you're coming to us specifically for that, we're happy and available to play music for the ceremony and cocktail hour. But like, I think it just adds a nice layer.
It's a good facet.
You know more than me how to sell live music. It's just like, I like having both. So yeah, what are couples coming to you for most?
Well, a lot of times lately for these smaller events, they're looking for something small scale. They're not looking for dancing because it's just technically not allowed right now. So
yeah,
they're coming to me for maybe DJ and some live music during ceremony and or cocktail hour.
Yeah.
And anybody who, we have had a sprinkling of larger band orchestra bookings for next year, but August, October, November, even New Year's Eve next year. So the larger things are being booked for next year, but seldom. I mean, it's just, I think the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty right now, a lot of clients are hesitant to book stuff.
Totally.
And a lot of venues are in trouble right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
that's also troubling. And I think once people are able to feel confident that their events can take place and their venues are going to be standing, it'll come back. But right now it's very small. They're saying, look, we're having 15 people in our backyard. Can I get a pop violinist? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to charge the same as I would. I'll charge a little less because I just do. And I shouldn't. But.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, like, have you gotten any inquiries, let's say, for like, what if someone was to call tomorrow and be like, hey, we have a 400-person wedding in February or March. We want a 12-piece band. Would you contract that and just explain to them that they will like if you need to postpone XYZ thing will happen, or would you rather not even book that right now?
For any bookings that are coming in for the next few months, I have had a couple inquiries, and I said, well, if you'd like that, there's some certain protocols we're putting into place. Luckily, I don't know if you know this, but there's about 18 band leaders in Chicago. We were participating in Zoom calls together, which was really nice because
I've heard
we've been competitors all this time, but what's nice about that is some of the leading, I call them like the leaders in the industry,
sure.
They really thought outside the box. So one of them in particular has shields where we would pay her company to set up the shield. So each singer and horn player would have literally their own little booth.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like the instrumentalists can wear masks. But that would be an extra cost. So I did tell that to a couple of prospective clients. Mm-hmm. This is what we would have to charge extra. I wouldn't charge anything on my side. You would just have to go through this other company to get it. But that's the only way that I would feel comfortable doing something of that size without knowing anything. I mean, obviously 3 weeks from now, things could be different. But until then, I mean, we have to try and exercise as much caution as possible.
Yep. Yeah. I haven't had a wedding yet since all this has happened, but I was going to say I haven't seen the plexiglass implemented yet, but it's definitely been discussed from our team of an option to protect talent and then protect the guests. So
yeah, I mean, there's a venue that's doing temperature checks at the door. I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, so I am just an optimist and hoping that the smart scientists and medical people are working on a treatment, a plan, a vaccine, a something, so that we can all go back to doing what we love, which is making people happy without social distancing.
Yeah. Because that's part of the fun of a wedding is the dancing part. So you have a good point. If dancing is not allowed, if they don't have a dance floor,
right?
Which venues are not permitted to have a dance floor right now here in Chicago.
But apparently some of them are getting past that by saying dance floors should remain closed.
So the physical dance floor is there.
Dance floors should remain closed. And I don't feel that dance floors should be open because drunk people and mixing and masks, blah, blah, blah. But there are venues who are using that verbiage to say, well, it should be closed, but it doesn't have to be.
I did have a wedding on September 12th. That was going to be my first wedding back. And the venue was explaining that they were not permitted to have a dance floor. There is a dance area. Or she actually might have even said, like, I think she was like, there's an area if people would like to convene, but dancing's permitted. And then she like did this move of like, but we're just not gonna look.
Right.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna look. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go.
I'm
laughing. It was an actual, like, it was not a good situation we were put in. We ended up
terrible.
I kind of filled you in yesterday when I spoke with you, but we ended up parting ways with the client. That's a whole other story, but yeah, it's hard because you have vendors and venues and couples all trying to sort everything out and follow everything. Like we have DJs and talent across the United States, and
Right.
we do weddings across the United States. And the rules are different in Vegas than they are here. And even here in Chicago, the rules are different in a different county. So there's a lot of information that's always changing. And it's really hard to keep up with, but it's part of our job now. So,
Well, we did have a wedding last weekend, and it was in the west suburbs of Chicago. There were about 42 guests. Everything was outdoors except the lunch, in which about 12 people left. So there were about 30 people in a room meant for 200. They were all very distanced. I
yeah,
kept my mask on. Everybody had masks on. The
great.
bride and groom did a first dance at the end of the lunch. It was a beautiful day. Everybody had a great time. I think we were cool. This Friday, I have a DJ doing a wedding where they're not allowing dancing. This venue's actually not allowing it.
Right.
So they're doing trivia.
Okay.
So it's kind of cute. The bride and groom came up with their questions, and the DJ's gonna do a whole thing. And they're gonna do a first dance, a father-daughter dance, a mother-son dance, bouquet toss, garter toss.
Yeah. All the
But we said, look, if you want to dance from your tables, that's fine.
yeah,
But they
exactly.
they said that they have an after party scheduled at the hotel. So if the energy starts to die down during trivia, they want our DJ to call it, and they'll all head to the hotel. And
Which is a whole other not your
I don't even want to talk about it, but that's what they're doing. And they are keeping it under 50 people. So
yeah,
that's what the guidelines say you can do.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Okay, so if a couple wants to inquire with you, what does the process look like? What do you recommend? Calling, emailing, and then how does the booking process work with you guys?
Well, for us, I have 2 PDFs of pricing that I send them right away because I know as a potential client, it's nice to see ballpark figures,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I always send the pricing right away. I say, please take a moment to review this, but please note we customize everything. I'm happy to discuss options with you. When are you available? I have X, Y, and Z available. Let's connect. So I really try to get them on the phone to talk. And then generally that works. And if it doesn't, I follow up with an email. And once we get connected on the phone, we talk more. Sometimes they want more videos, so I'll send them some more specific things. Like if they tell me we really like Michael Bublé, okay, great. I have some videos of this guy that does our Michael Bublé stuff. Let me send that to you.
Yeah,
Or I love strings. Okay, great. Do you like the cello? Well, I don't know what that sounds like. Great. This is a cello. And not only is this a cello, she happens to be a really good vocalist. Here's footage of her singing. That way people can gather, wow, that's so great. Or, oh, that's terrible. I don't want that at all. Or
well,
whatever.
they'll say it's terrible, but I get
They
it.
don't
Not,
say it's terrible, but they'll say, you know what? And sometimes it's a budget thing. I mean, we've had people want to do the Love Actually reenactment, and we've actually done that. And I have a price tag for it. So if you want it, this is what it costs. So I
remind me
don't.
what that is. I've seen it. I love it. I've seen that movie.
Um, well, one of the best chick flicks of all time is Love Actually.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend it. It's terribly cheesy. Um, there's a scene where the groom surprises the bride with a 35-person ensemble playing All You Need Is Love as the recessional. So you've got a gospel choir, a string quartet, 3 trumpet players, 2 flute players, 3 trombone players, 2 saxophone players, all of them spread out in the pews to surprise the crowd. So we did that, caught it on video, and it can be done because we now have the team to do something that elaborate.
I know. As soon as you started saying that, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm not married, but wow. Like I get why any bride or groom would want something so amazing. Like, films inspire you, but then like you said, there's that sticker shock of like, oh, okay, it's I mean, rightfully so, because you have
Right.
so many people you have to pay.
Well, and we do a rehearsal, and I mean, there's like a whole covert operation with it too, because in this case, we had to surprise the bride. So that was a whole undertaking, but
That's so cool.
so fun.
It's nice that you have the videos because I've had couples say, like, can we go see them in action? I'm like, no, you're not permitted to go to someone else's wedding to see them. Like,
That's
sorry.
one positive thing of this COVID situation is people can't come to see us live. It's like we've got tons of live videos. Please
Yeah.
watch them.
Yeah,
So many videos.
exactly. Oof. I know that you said you send out like a overall estimate of pricing. When
Yeah.
if you were to advise a couple, like an average couple, whatever that may be, the most extreme to the least extreme, is there a percentage of their overall wedding budget that you recommend carving out, or what do you recommend when they're trying to figure out how much money to put towards live music?
Well, I'm not a planner, but in planner conversations, I've heard to the effect of your venue and alcohol and food should be about half your budget.
Sure. Yep.
And then they say 10% should be entertainment.
I agree.
Um,
Just wanted to see
but
what you.
but if they want, and that's if you want a DJ and maybe a DJ and a guitarist or something like that, this was great. But if you want like full band orchestra, they have to at least budget, I mean, at a minimum 5 grand, but they should think up to 20 grand. I mean,
5 grand for what specifically?
for bands and orchestras at least.
Would you say that, because if I was to guess, because I am a wedding planner and I have these conversations with my couple, I
Yeah.
do use the whole, about 10%, but I usually give a ballpark of about $1,000 per musician. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I'd say
Or like a big band of like, if they want like a 10-piece band, I'm like, oh, it's going to be at least 10 grand. Is that
that's a good figure for
okay?
them to envision. Absolutely.
I'm like, 1,000 per musician. They're like, okay.
Yeah, but I'll get a client who says our budget is $3,000. Okay, well, you can't have the full band. However, we could still do a DJ and a small live music portion. Maybe a violin and piano at your ceremony, and then a saxophone and piano at cocktail hour or something like that. We can work around their budget, but you're not going to get a 10-piece band for $3,000. I mean, that's just impossible. No,
Yeah. Would you
not
say
from
that,
us.
what are the most popular instruments for a ceremony specifically? Strings, right? Or what do you see most?
I see mostly duos. I see violin and cello. I see harp. I see harp and violin. Whenever they want a harp and they realize the price tag's a little high for them, a piano and violin is really nice together. A solo piano is beautiful. It's literally a harp flipped over on its side. That's literally what a piano is.
I didn't like that's mind blowing.
Strings.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. You're right.
And it's a lot easier to lug a portable keyboard and amp than a giant harp.
Gosh. I had a client who I might have actually reached out to, I think I did, who originally wanted live music for their ceremony, and they wanted is it called a grand piano?
Yes.
Like an actual piano. So we ended up just doing having our DJ play music because there was a specific song they decided they wanted to be played by the specific singer, like Beyonce or something. But at first, she was like, "No, I have to have a piano." And it's funny how that transitioned all the way to a recording of Beyonce. But that's just part of the learning process. As couples, from what I've seen as a planner, don't really know what they want. So it's our job as a vendor to help guide and educate.
Before I really got into weddings, and I'd say, why do people pay $10 for those fancy chairs? Well, when I'd get pictures back from brides of our band and I'd see a room that had the nicer chairs versus the venue chairs, I
Yep.
mean, it's an aesthetic that it does matter. If that's your thing, or if the chairs are not so attractive, get those chair covers. I mean, There's nothing wrong with some nice chair covers, maybe a bow. I mean, I'm not a designer by any means.
No, but it's interesting just being in the wedding industry for a while. I know you must pick up on things just like I pick up on things. You know, I'm
Yes.
a planner. I have to, in order to do my job well, learn a little bit about everything. I mean, I don't know, like floral is my weakness. I don't know every single flower type.
Right.
I don't know instrument types. I don't know specific songs necessarily. But after seeing enough weddings, I can at least guide my clients in a direction. I would much rather, though, send you, like, connect. I'm a connector.
Right.
Sounds like a very millennial thing to say, or influencer, but like, I speak with my client. I try to get a feel for what they want. And then if I think that you and your company, Amy, would be able to help them and you'd be a good fit, then I would say, let's talk to Amy. I think you'd be super happy with her. And then I would kind of allow you to, not fill in the blanks, but just more in depth.
Can I confess something funny to you about a wedding we're doing this weekend?
Sure.
Okay. So I was hired to provide an electric violinist, which is literally like a pop violinist playing to tracks, but that's a whole other conversation. But they wanted an electric violinist. And when I spoke to the client, I said, okay. And she said, well, we really want a grand piano outdoors. And I said, do you know how much it costs to have a grand piano moved? So it was a whole thing.
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to quote her so she knows.
Well, she asked me to do the research. So I called a piano mover company, and they actually had a grand piano in their home and wanted it moved about 500 yards to a portion of their property under a tent on grass.
Oh, it was her piano.
It was her. They had a piano in their home, but the bride really liked the way that it looked and wanted it more for aesthetics because it looks nicer than an electric piano.
Of course.
And I told her on the phone, I said, I'm a singer who plays piano.
Yeah.
And she said, great, we'd love to hire you, yada, yada. Okay, great. So we contracted me and the violinist. So the violin's doing her electric stuff, and then we're doing a little piano violin duo. And then the violin's going to play a little extra. And then I was supposed to play piano for the next two and a half hours. And I said, well, I sing. And the bride said, well, I don't want any singing at all. And I said, okay. So I actually called my piano player and I said, hey, I'm going to pay you. You're going to come the last 2 hours of this wedding and you're going to come play the piano, because I'm not even telling the client, like, she doesn't need to know, like, right now. I'm going to just say, look, you're going to be happy. I'm not charging them extra. I'm just paying him to pinch hit, so to speak, because I told them on the phone that I'm not actually, like, you're not going to have me playing Mozart and like crazy string versions of, I mean, yes, I can play songs.
Playing supports your singing.
Yes, I'm what's known as a comper. Like, I can comp really well when I sing. And I can play piano, but I'd much rather have, like, my guy who can play Mozart there so that they can have string Beyonce songs like Halo. He could play that all beautiful and piano-y. And so it's just funny that in this COVID world, it didn't even strike me in the conversation to have that discussion. She just was so adamant about, oh, you play piano? Okay, great. I'm like, well, no, I play piano and sing. And it was a whole thing, but
if you're watching right now, then she will know. Otherwise, yeah. But I mean,
it's going to be fine.
It's really great to hear that you're working. We're not done yet. We still have a few more minutes, but if you do want to let everyone know, I did mention the restaurant, but if you just want to let us know where you're performing on a regular basis and how people can follow you and all that jazz.
Yazz Jazz. So my last name's Yassinger. So Yazz Jazz is just the pun of my name, and we've just kind of worked with this for the past decade. But on Instagram, we're Yazz Jazz Music and Productions. And every Friday night, I sing with my other band leader, Brooke. We're a duo. I sing and play piano, and she sings as well. And we do harmonies. We play at Incontro a Tavola in South Barrington every Friday from 5 to 9. Outdoors, socially distanced. There's a tent. And we'll be there at least through October, and hopefully the weather will behave. And for now, that's where we'll be. And you can check them out as well. Incontro Atavola.
Cool. And then if people want to get in touch with you, is your website the best way?
Yeah, Yazz Jazz, YAZZJAZZ, YazzJazz.com. You can go to the website, contact me, or just info@yazzjazz.com.
I
And
think it's so cool your last name has singer in it, and you're a singer.
Yassinger, the jazz singer. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I know.
Meant to be, I think.
We do jazz, but we do other things too. But yeah, we do jazz. If people want jazz, then they got it.
Yeah, I wonder if so I would assume most of your inquiries are for jazz because jazz is in your company name.
That has been a thing, and we have had people think we're just a jazz band, but I mean, you go to the website, it's all there. It shows you exactly what we do. And I think people do, I'd say 90% of the people who visit our website do realize, oh, wow, I didn't realize you had strings, or, oh, you have DJs, or there's a guy singing Bruno Mars. That's not jazz. So I think people do get that. And that's another reason why our other band is called Heatwave Orchestra. I think the name, just the word jazz, can be jarring for some people, and that's unfortunate, but it's okay.
Jazz. Do you have I know a lot of bands have a list of songs that you provide to the client and say this is our go-to set list, pick and choose, or is your company able, or is your team rather able to learn new songs with a fee, or how does that?
I find that song lists are super archaic. If I may be a little frank.
Yeah, no, this is good to talk about.
What I do is I send them to the online planning tool. Oh, thank you.
Mm.
I send them to the online planning tool where they can pick must plays and do not plays, and then based on their likes and dislikes, we create a set that pertains to what they want, adding universal songs. So if I see that in their request they say we don't like 80s music, okay, great. So we'll avoid Michael Jackson, we'll avoid Come On Eileen and stuff like that. And then I'll ask more questions. I'll say, hey, is Billie Jean okay? I know you said no 80s. Usually they say, oh yeah, that's fine. I just really hate this one song that I heard at my junior high, whatever. It's like, okay.
Yep.
But it's important to have these conversations, because if they put Ain't No Mountain High Enough on their do not playlist, okay, well, you don't like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, but is Dancing in the Street okay? Or is I Got a Feeling by Black Eyed Peas okay? You kind of have to,
and yeah,
it gets that same pumped up crowd momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite is we don't want anything cheesy, yet they put Sweet Caroline on the must playlist. And I'm like, wait a second.
Right, so then you have to talk about
cheesy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I think cheesy, I think Sweet Caroline, but
that's so funny. If someone I've seen you sing.
Yeah.
But if a random person asked you what your style is, how would you describe yourself?
As me personally as a singer?
Yeah, you personally as a singer. Because I don't know how I would describe you, is why I'm asking. So maybe you know.
I tend to think I'm versatile.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my heart is always in Broadway, but that's not, nobody wants to really hear
light?
No, I'd say
I'm trying to do this. I don't know.
I think a lot of people just think of me as a singer who happens to be versatile. So I can, a lot of people do like that I do jazz. I mean, I certainly do jazz. But I can really, if you want me to sing Total Eclipse of the Heart, I will kill Bonnie Tyler for you. Just, that's my 7th grade in me, but the only thing I don't do is French. Do not ask me to sing French. It will be horrible. I don't do it.
People, is that must be a common question then?
Well, the no, just we'll find someone else to do it.
Yeah,
I'll find a French person, and we're just
right. That's La Vie en Rose.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you did a good job. I actually recognized
it. Good. Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these songs that you've heard in restaurants and movies your whole life, and you don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. I actually studied French a little bit in school, so
Oh, that's nice.
Kind of know that. If you ever need a French singer, I wouldn't call myself a singer though, but maybe
Hey,
work on it.
you got the pronunciations. I mean, I'll do Spanish, I'll do Portuguese, I can
Oh,
do Hebrew, Yiddish.
yeah, because it's just the inflection, or like, I'm assuming you have the words there in front of you, and
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Miami, so I sang in some salsa bands. So I mean, I can do the Spanish thing. But if they want the dude like you know, like I have a guy that I'll call to do that.
right.
Like I can do Vivir Mi Vida, but it's much better if you actually have a Mark Anthony guy doing that instead of
Yeah,
me.
yeah, that's fair. Maybe that will be my way to pivot if weddings just go kaput, which they won't. I don't think they will. I mean, honestly, not to go on another tangent, but I think people are now opening up, from what I've seen, to different, you mentioned the word solution early on in this broadcast, of like helping your clients find solutions. That's what I think every vendor is doing right now, which is awesome.
We
Because
just have to be able to customize stuff to fit everyone's needs. You
yeah,
don't need a 10-piece band for a 15-person gathering.
yeah, like why just, because early on everyone's like, are weddings done forever? I'm like, no, they're not done forever. Everyone, like, people will still get married. It's just going to look and feel a little different for a while, if not forever. I'm sure certain protocols will be in place moving forward. I'm curious to see, what it looks like a year from now.
Well, me too. I don't know if we're going to have the same conversation, but hopefully,
Well,
hey, September 2021.
oh Lord, yeah, I know. That's kind of like trippy to think about. I'm doing my very best to just like be, not to sound like a hippie, but like be present in the moment, enjoy summer,
Yes.
whatever that means, have my windows open, like take walks, whatever that is. But I think as a human, I'm like anxious to jump towards the future in hopes that it'll be better. I mean, but I'm just,
I mean, there has to be a life after COVID. I don't know what that's going to be.
we will have you on again.
In
So,
September of 2021.
well, maybe sooner. I mean,
Just teasing.
definitely.
Thanks.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary. But no, this has been really wonderful. I could talk to you for a very long time. So let's
Thanks for
definitely.
having me. I can't believe this has been an hour. That's great.
I know. I'm always like, it's an hour and it sounds like a long time, but there's so much to talk about, like,
I hope we learned things today. I mean, yeah.
yes, I learned that a piano is a harp turned sideways.
Hey, look, the
I
harp just looks way better.
among many other things. So
Yeah.
this video will be downloaded and uploaded to YouTube, and we'll share it with you, and anyone who is not able to watch live can hopefully watch it later. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again. And yeah, be safe.
You too.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
See ya. All right, guys. Hopefully, like Amy said, hopefully that was informative for you. Join us next week. We're going to have a photographer on. Her name is Lisa Cathan. She's also based in Chicago. She was doing smaller weddings before COVID hit, so I'm, excited to get her insight on how business is going for her, and things for couples to consider when booking a photographer. So have a wonderful night, and we will see you guys hopefully next week. Bye.